Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. On behalf of Minister Charlie Flanagan, I want to thank Deputy Kelleher for the further responses he has provided in relation to this proposed bill, and those members who have participated also in enriching our debate in this evening's second stage debate. As Minister Flanagan said in his initial statement, there is a common objective shared by Deputy Kelleher's bill and the Government's initiative of establishing the Cost of Insurance Working Group and its roundtable on fraud to reform the insurance sector. I would also like to acknowledge the various concerns that have been expressed by deputies about the high cost of insurance in this jurisdiction and the adverse impacts of such high insurance costs on private citizens and enterprise. And in Ceann Comhairle, I also have had discussions with businesses and concerned citizens about this, and Government is taking it very seriously, as indeed I think all members are who spoke tonight in all parties. Can I say that every effort is being made to address these issues and what is colloquially described as the claims culture that drives it. As has been outlined, the Department of Justice and Equality is doing its part in addressing these matters under 17 of the 48 recommendations made in the reports of the Cost of Insurance Working Group. These reports cover in their scope motor insurance, personal liability insurance and employer insurance as areas which give rise to particular concern. Along with the Minister for Finance and Minister of State Darcy, who chairs the working group, all members of the Government are determined that real headway now be made in addressing these matters with lasting effect. Of course, the reform measures recommended by the Cost of Insurance Working Group extend beyond those which fall under the remit of the Department of Justice and Equality or Deputy Kelleher's proposed amendment indeed. For example, the Central Bank National Claims Information Database Bill 2018, introduced by my colleague the Minister for Finance, has completed second stage on the 20th of September 2018. This is a product of the work of the Cost of Insurance Working Group, Ceann Comhairle, where it emerged that it was essential that there be an improvement in transparency around what was causing premiums to be so volatile, both up and down, over relatively short periods of time. The group therefore recommended the establishment of a national claims information database on a legislative basis to facilitate a more in-depth analysis of annual claims trends of motor insurance claims. This will be key to developing an understanding of how claims costs are impacting premiums. In particular, understanding the relationship between the price paid by a consumer for motor insurance and the cost to insurance undertakings. As has been discussed, a key component of these overall reform efforts is the need to tackle insurance fraud. This includes giving renewed focus and effective follow-up in the courts to the provisions of sections 25 and 26 of the Civil Liability and Court Act 2004, which lies at the root of Deputy Kelleher's proposed bill. I think it is fair to say that we are on the same road in this regard. To bring these initiatives to their shared destination, we just need to adjust some of the signposts along the way. Of course, given the broad range of challenges being faced, Section 26 of the 2004 Act will not solve all of our problems on its own. Even if amended, can only give rise to a limited number of outcomes in terms of alleged insurance fraud. In making these remarks, I would therefore draw renewed attention to the fact that in its report on the cost of employer and public liability insurance, the working group expressed the belief that in order for Section 26 to achieve more effectively its aim of tackling personal insurance fraud, there is a major onus on defendants to challenge misleading evidence, where appropriate, by taking it to the courts, rather than settling on the court steps for fear of an unsatisfactory outcome. As mentioned by Minister Flanagan, the working group was also of the view, and I quote here, that appropriate use of the legislative provisions of the 2004 Act could be facilitated by encouraging industry to make complaints to An Garda Síochána where they believed fraud had been featured in claims, unquote. Yesterday's publication, Ceann Comhairle, of the new guidelines for the reporting of allegations of fraudulent insurance claims to An Garda Síochána, which have been agreed between the Garda National Economic Crime Bureau and Insurance Ireland, is, I think you will agree, a good example of the kind of encouraging measures that we need in this regard. These concerted reform initiatives represent a series of mutually reinforcing measures that, in their collective implementation, will strengthen Sections 25 and 26 of the Civil Liability and Courts Act. I look forward with Mr Flanagan to our ongoing consideration of Deputy Kelleher's amendment bill, including the substantial amendments to the bill that will be required and I expect will be proposed by the Government at committee stage. And as the Minister has said earlier on, we are not opposing this particular piece of proposed legislation. Thank you very much indeed.